What's up, guys? We're Jake and James from Inverted Reality, and you're watching Boss Fight on 2ndInvite, the podcast on hard mode. Today, we are talking about games that get good after X hours. So after 5 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 hours,
20 hours.
depending on the game.
All right, let's get some examples of games. What are we looking at here?
Yeah, so some kind of examples of games that may be familiar to you and maybe not. Persona 4 Golden is the first example I thought of, Vita game.
It's approximately 600 hours. Right?
Yeah, it's about an 80-hour game if you really invest the time. But people would legitimately say you get really invested after you're about 10 hours in. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've beaten so many games in my life in 10 hours.
Right.
I'm not sure. Like, I've tried multiple times to play that game.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Like, it's fun. But I don't think I've ever gotten to 10 hours.
Yeah. It just does. It's not hooking you.
It's turn-based combat mixed with a visual novel, and so it's kind of like, whew, this is a lot of reading.
Some interesting pacing.
Yep. Next, Diablo 3.
Oh yeah.
One that you're
100%.
intimately familiar with.
Oh yes.
Get to level 70, and then you start getting full armor sets, and you can start playing on
Then you
harder
start
levels
doing this
and-
stuff. Then
yeah.
it's not even about leveling up. That's just the beginning game. Now you beat the game once, whatever, but then you level up, and then you have
People
to go
beat the
into
game once
higher
just
difficulty
screw 'em.
levels, and then they ran out of difficulty levels, so they added more. And it's like, oh, I can solo Torment 5. Like, oh, you're such a wuss. I can solo Torment 9. And it's like these are the things that you do, and you get better stuff to get more stuff to get new stuff to do more things.
Yep.
Whole different kind of game.
An endless gear treadmill.
Very, very, very much so.
Dragon Age Origins, things like leaving the hinterlands is having an Inquisition as well. Leave the starting area,
Yeah.
so you can start playing the game.
Make
But
them way too big.
it doesn't tell you that.
Yeah.
You leave the starting area, which is huge, and then you get to the next areas, which are not nearly the size.
But you at least get some variety.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Knights of the Old Republic 2, and I'm sure it's probably the same with Knights of the Old Republic 1. I played Knights of the Old
To a
Republic
lesser extent.
2 quite a bit when I was younger. Had it on PC. Destiny.
Oh.
Both of us are
Very true.
pretty familiar with this. You
Destiny 1 and
like
2.
keep going until you get to raid level. Like, yeah, you're not really playing the game until you're in the end game, and you're playing. Destiny 1 was really bad about this in year 1, where it
Initially,
was like
yeah.
you hit what it was level
29. Forever 20. Well,
It was like 25 to raid, 26 to raid.
well, no, because it was originally 30. And the 30 was the max, so you had to hit 20.
26 was raid
26
level.
was raid level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you hit like 20, it was your progression came to a just arthritic pace of a halt. Like, I can't go. And you just slowly move on.
Yeah.
But it got better. Soulsborne games.
So Demon
Like-
Souls, Dark Souls,
Bloodborne. Yeah.
those style of games.
Like once you're in past X spot, once you beat the cleric beast, the game's fun from there. It's like,
Or like once you get past Father G, or once you get past BSB, or insert name of boss. Once you get out of Central Yarnum,
once you get to the end.
once you beat the game twice, then it starts to get good.
Yeah. The example I got from the article we'll check out here in a second is Mega Man. Specifically, they quoted Mega Man X. But
I heard it was a trash game, personally.
yeah, it's Mega Man in the sense of not knowing which boss to pick first. So like, what's kind of like you find the right bosses for your playstyle, I guess, or find the bosses that you play in this order. Like I know that was a big thing for Mega Man 2 was like play the bosses in this order, and it makes it a lot easier or more fun because you have the right tools to beat the right bosses.
Oh yeah,
Nier Automata, don't stop after ending A.
right.
Like play the game multiple times.
3, 4, 5 endings. There was all the way up to 26. If you're
Exactly.
Crazy.
So the article that kind of sparked this whole thought for the show, I found over on Reset Era. So if it gets better after X hours is often true, but sometimes. So just a little paragraph from it. So imagine someone playing Mega Man X for the first time, their first Mega Man game. They know nothing of the franchise. They play the first level and they drop the game. The reason is that quote, you can just jump and shoot and do a little slide. I wish I could do more. Felt boring, so I dropped it, end quote. They don't know they can pick levels and get more weapons and powers. The one tip the game gives you is 0. In the quote unquote promise that someday Mega Man can be as good as 0, thus insinuating power growth. If that was not there, the player would be 100% blind going in unless he had already known what the deal was. But if anybody dropped Mega Man X for that reason, knowing nothing of the franchise, people would chew them up. So it's just things that we in the gaming sphere know. We know that some games are like, yeah, it get good after X amount of hours. And usually those games are RPGs and the like.
Yes.
And so kind of the question becomes, what game is good enough to justify that reasoning? Like, where does a game become okay to be like, yeah, it gets good after X hours, like Final Fantasy. Probably pretty much all of them are like, yeah, you kind of got to get into it after a while, and you get past all the really boring story tutorial parts, and then you're playing Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, it's 15's obviously kind of the fresh one on our mind. 14 was an MMO. 13 was a travesty. And
saw people quoting 7 a lot in the comments of those articles.
7 was the Dream RPG, but it still takes a long time to get started because the problem with Final Fantasy is there's so many systems, so many ways to play the game, so many ways to do things, so many things that aren't like explicitly told to you, and you have to learn. And a lot of Final Fantasy, obviously back in the day before you would get on the internet and do stuff, before you would have resources, so you just had to figure it out yourself, and that was the only game you had because you get one game a year, and you pick Final Fantasy. You pick the one with the most discs because that seemed like the good idea. Now you've got a 150-hour game that you have no idea how to play.
Exactly.
So I think back then it was easier to be patient on games like that because that was what you got.
Yeah.
Like there was no review website to go to. There was no one telling you. You picked it based on the box art, and now you get that one or you don't get to play. So that's how it goes.
That kind of sparks another question of, like, let's see, how do I want to phrase it? Are games doing that less now in the world of the well-connected internet, where they're popping out and going like, oh yeah, it doesn't get good until X hours, or like, oh, you got to stick with it until this part and you'll do it, and people being like, no thanks. I have very limited time to game, and I don't want to spend it waiting for the game to get good.
I mean, I think there's a ton of different issues that go into it. I think part of it is the people that are saying that are the ones that have been gaming since they were younger, and so they have a certain expectation level for games. They came from an era where it didn't have a ton of genres, whereas now we have a ton of them.
All of them.
So it's one of those things where I think we're seeing it more now because there's more games that are easily accessible, that don't have this huge difficulty curve, that hold your hand through everything, and a lot of people like that. And a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah.
So you see what makes people money. It's like, this is what appeals to the masses, is games that are easy to jump into, that hook you right from the beginning and just let you slowly work your way into the game.
Yeah.
And then you have these counterculture games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne that, like, the beginning intro sequence of the game, you die. And you can't get your weapons, and you can't upgrade, and can't do anything until you die. And you learn that dying is not losing the game. Dying is learning how to not play the game and learning how to adjust and things
games
like that.
Games that demand their players to get better, not for them to lower the difficulty.
Like Bloodborne more so than some of the Dark Souls and Demon Souls games had cheaper deaths that felt like it was just kind of ticky-tack that you were dying. Like, oh, you dodged somebody and he bumped you with a shield and you missed the hitbox and fell off the side of the cliff for no good reason. Or there's just cheap ways to die, not because of the boss, but just because of poor design.
Yeah.
Bloodborne doesn't have that. If you die, it's your fault. 100% of the time. Right? I've maybe had one death where I was pretty upset about it because I felt like I was wronged by it, but I wasn't, right? It's just like, if you die, it's on you. So it teaches you to be good. It's a counterculture thing because we're not used to failing. Like we talked about it on our main podcast, but I spent 4 or 5 hours in Central Yarnum on the same stupid bonfire. Like I couldn't do it. I couldn't get past it. I couldn't push through it. It took time. And, 5 years ago, I would have thrown the game against the wall. And like I tried Dark Souls 3 when it came out. I rented it on Redbox and I spent 2 hours with it. And I died to the same dragon approximately 1,100 times before I realized you didn't even have to use said dragon or go anywhere near it. Like
I was about to say, stupid. I saw that dragon from the back and ran away.
Yeah, exactly. And it just was not like a game that I was prepared for. When I went into Bloodborne, it was much different. But I think that's part of it. It just kind of, you got to have expectations going into a game.
Yeah.
So you got to know what's the expectation of time. So like new God of War's coming out, 30, 40-hour game. Like they said that one of the game designers, they had an interview this last week because there's a ton of media out there about it.
Mm-hmm.
That interview where one of the lead developers said he played the game, 100% completion, took him 43 hours. And he made the game. He made it, and it took him 43 hours. So how long is that going to take you and me? Right? We're jumping in fresh. This is not like the God of Wars. So that's like a 60-hour game. So are you going to die as soon as you get in? Yes, you're going to die. Like that's what we're preparing for, right? Like this Soulsborne influence, right? They're influenced by the level design. They're influenced by the dodge mechanics that we haven't really seen a lot of in God of War.
No.
Kind of grounded combat. All sounds really good. A nice turn for the franchise. So when you look at some of these games, it comes down to what the hook is that most appeals to you. Persona 4 and Persona 5 and those kind of games, no, I can't do it. I won't even bother trying.
Hardcore
Because
JRPGs.
I don't relate to that. I don't want to read that much, and it just doesn't. I don't love the stylistic choices. Like, there's almost nothing about it that entices me personally.
And on the opposite side of that, there was a guy, I'm pretty sure I remember this correctly, a guy by the name of Andrew Goldfarb, works at IGN, and he loves the Persona series so much that he ordered the Japanese version of Persona 4 Golden before it was available in the States, beat the whole game without being able to read it. First of all, I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah, I don't understand what you get out of that.
That game is 90% story.
Like, I don't know how you... gosh, and it's such a weird story too because it's JRPG.
Yeah,
like it's just so
kind of out there.
Weird. I don't know. It's just it really just depends on what gets you into the game. So like Diablo 3, for me, I played a lot of Diablo 1 and 2. Like my dad and I played that when I was growing up. Which I mean, saying that out loud sounds kind of weird, but that's just. I mean, we played that together. We played that separate, and he'd help me. And that's kind of where I grew up on games. And so Diablo 3 comes out, like done. I'm buying it. I don't care if it sucks. Like this is what I'm playing. And it was awesome, and I loved it. And yeah, there were some flaws with it, but the end game was like, you're going to beat the game, and you're going to not be max level yet, and that's fine. Now up to difficulty level. Do it again. And as time went on, which took years, I think we all forget, Diablo 3 came out like 2011, 2012, something like that. It took a long time for it to be the game that it is now. So it's like you hit level 70, and now you can do these random dungeons. You can go and do these constantly changing difficulty levels, and you can do these speed runs, see how fast you can do this. If you get under this timer, you can get these cooler equipments, and then you unlock these sets and unlock these sets, and there's so much progression, it's almost overwhelming. And then if you get tired of that, you can go make another class and do it all again, and then you can get on like 4-player co-op on your console. And
the boyish smile you got in your face when you said
the
that.
couch co-op, and there's so many things, but almost none of that really works until you hit level 70. And the first time you play it, especially if you've never played a Diablo game, it's going to take you like 30 or 40 hours to max level.
That was me.
That's just how it goes. And there's nothing wrong with that because the game is fun and the story's all right. Like, I liked it, but I'm easily amused. Like, it was probably kind of a cheesy story.
I mean, for a game like Diablo, I mean, that person you just talked about is me.
Right.
But the thing that I had is you.
Yeah.
So I have you sitting there going, like, I beat the game in however long it took me, like 20 hours to just beat the main game. I don't remember. It's a long time ago. And I was like, cool, I beat Diablo. And you're like, cool, did you start another player? And I was like, what do you mean? I beat the game.
Right.
And you're like, no. Like, you've just beaten the story. Like, you got to move on and like keep leveling up your character because that character will get so much stronger. You'll have so much more fun. And so I just started again on a harder difficulty with that character. Yeah. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
This is the first game I ever played like that before because my gaming experience growing up was Mario and Donkey Kong and Mario Kart and like those games that you hop in and it is what it is from the beginning.
Yep.
And it's that way the entire way through.
100%.
That's
you
just
know
how
exactly
it goes.
what you're getting. I mean, you got Mario Kart, you even had Super Mario Odyssey. There's a few different things and really cool mechanics, but it's the same game. It's a platformer. It's got Mario. You're saving Princess Peach. You can expect that going in. Diablo 3, it was amazing to me. I platinumed it. And I had a hardcore character. I beat the game, got to level 70. I've never done that before in my life. It was freaking amazing. I loved it. I think I probably put 500 or 600 hours because my wife picked it up and we couch co-opted like 4 different characters. So I have 7. I have all of the characters max level. She had like 4 or 5 of them. That's how much time we put into it because it was amazing. But I also knew that going in. You don't just play the story and go. Something like Destiny, it's a little different because we didn't really know what to expect.
Well, I don't know what it was about Destiny that just like grabbed on because thinking back to that very first game, like we all knew, like once it got to a certain point, we're all sitting there going, yeah, everybody says you got to get to raid ready and then kind of whatever. And it was fun up to that point, but think about how just kind of bare bones that game was when we started.
It was. I mean, you once you beat the game, you could replay the story missions. You had strikes. And then you could do the Nightfall, which is just a harder version of the strike. And you had PvP, and you had a raid. And that was what you had for 4 or 5 months at the beginning there. And then as they tweaked things and adjusted the formulas and stuff, like that was it. You'd go on patrols. You'd have to manually pick up all your materials. You'd have to go pick up bounties and stuff occasionally.
The hardcore guys is like, they do that on all 3 characters every week.
And for a while, it was
at the Tuesday reset.
Us.
Yeah, at the Tuesday reset, you hop in and you do your Nightfall on your main, and then by Friday you've done the raid with your main and probably your secondary.
Yep.
And so with your third character, you're like your tertiary character, you're like, I'm gonna run and do the raid with my buddies and their third characters.
Right.
So we've done it all again, and it's more about hanging out. So in a game like that, it's the joke about Destiny 2, the friend game is the end game.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know it then.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of more the hook for Destiny 2 is like, that's a game about hanging out. That's not necessarily a game about beating the game.
And I mean, it helped. The shooting mechanics were second to
It's
none.
an amazing first person shooter.
It is. I mean, even in Destiny 2, it's still really solid. Maybe not quite like Destiny 1, but it's got beautiful graphics. It's got a decent enough story to go with it. They just changed up some weird mechanics in Destiny 2 that didn't make sense. But Destiny as a life, over the life of the first game, it just kept evolving, and there was nothing else that we wanted to play. Like you get on, it's like, oh, do you want to do the same 7 things we did last night? Yeah, okay, and then we did it, and it was fun, and it was exciting, and I don't know why. There was this like chasing the loot.
That should
and
be
it was
so
exciting.
boring.
It should be.
And looking back on it, like especially for the kind of person that I am,
Yeah.
I'm the move on and play new things guy.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
all the time. Like I just got Far Cry 5, and I plan on fully being done with it by the time God of War comes out,
Yeah.
so I can play that and never see Far Cry 5 again.
That's right.
Like it probably won't happen until the DLC
comes out,
and
you
I'll
have Far
do
Cry
that.
3.
I'm always like, move on to the next thing. And I was off Destiny pretty far before everybody else was, but I still got on to play to hang out with people.
Yeah, you would get on like once or
I
twice.
probably put
a
in
week.
100 extra hours of game that I didn't want to play to hang out with my friends.
Just because it was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we had fun hanging out, and I think I ended up 400 or 500 hours, and I think I burnt out. I think that's part of it, but that game just built a world that you wanted to be in. And the Souls games are different in that it's not about being in the world. It's not about hanging out with people. It's just like that constant challenge, and you just get hooked into that adrenaline rush that you get in that boss fight when he's down like to where the health bar is below his name, and your heart starts racing.
So there,
and you can feel it, and then you spam R1 and you die, or you keep calm and collected and stay on your path. And I almost cost myself a couple times today when I was playing. You just get addicted to that rush, and then you beat him and it's done, and Prey Slaughtered comes up, and you're just like, this wave of like endorphins comes over, and you don't get that anywhere else, but it takes you 5 or 6 hours before you even have that opportunity, because beating up regular guys in the alley and learning how to dodge and learning how to parry doesn't do it for you. It's that last part. So what I guess for me, Bloodborne appealed to me because it was free, but for you, what was it about Dark Souls that like the hook that grabbed you? Because it's obviously a different game than Bloodborne in its art style, and there is a parry, but you have a shield.
Yeah.
You have shield and a weapon. So what was it like in Dark Souls that grabbed you to say, I'm going to keep playing?
Dark Souls, one of the just the combat of it. I'm a guy, ironically enough, I'm a guy that hates loops and grinds. Like I want to keep on going. Like there's better stuff coming, and I'm headed towards it.
Right.
And so, but you learn to get out of that mindset almost immediately, because I'm also the kind of guy that overlevels going into stuff because I don't always want to try. Like I'll do all the trying beforehand.
Yeah.
Like I work in production. All the work I do is before the show happens. So all the work I do now in a video game is before I get to the boss. And then when I get to the boss, it's just like continue the story.
Right.
But Dark Souls has some of the most satisfying melee combat known to mankind. Like it's just so good. Like it's so heavy, but it's just when you win, it feels so good. And it's learning like when to dodge, when to block, how these enemies are gonna like how to beat these certain enemies. I don't know. And it's about getting good. Like it's one of the few remaining games, like we just mentioned, that demands its players just to get better.
Yeah.
And so it's more about getting better as a gamer than it is about exploiting the parts of the game that are just easy to beat, or just turning down the difficulty when it gets too hard.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you can't just level up. Like you up your levels by spending your echoes or your souls, and it just increases your health bar a little
There's
bit.
a lot
or
of
gives
risk
you a
versus
slight
reward.
more bit of damage, and that's it. Like at the end of the day, you need to not get hit, and you need to hit. Like those are the things that get you good at the game.
Yeah, and it's how far are you going to go? How many souls are you going to collect before you run back to a bonfire or back to a lamp?
Yeah.
Like I've run to a boss. Like, all right, I have 20,000 souls.
Yeah.
Do I go into the boss and think I can beat him? Do I go back to the lamp, and by the time I get back here, I have 20,000 more?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you just had to run all that again.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
it's tough. It's an interesting kind of thing, but it's just there has to be, I think, with these games, there has to be something that hooks you. That's why something like Final Fantasy 15 just didn't, like, I have it and eventually I will return to it. But we got about 5 or 6 hours in and it was good, but I couldn't find a reason to come back.
Yeah.
And it didn't convince me that I needed to come back. And I think that's what a game has to have. I think you have to have expectations and understand when you go in, like, oh, this is a Call of Duty single player campaign, 5 hours, I'm done, I can go to multiplayer. Fine. I have that expectation. I know what is demanded of me. Fine. Bloodborne, unlimited hours. That's how long it's going to be because there's a ton of stuff to do and it's really hard. So I think having that expectation, understanding what the game is rather than what we used to do of pick a box art and buy it. Because now it's like, well, I could just go return it. I'm an adult. I can do that. I can just throw it away and not worry about it. Just say it's a lost cause. I suck at it. I don't want to play it. Fine. When we were younger, I don't think that was an option. So.
No. And at the end of the day, kind of what this all boils down to, is it worth getting a game that people say, oh, it gets good after X hours?
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of a cheap opinion, but it's different for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And it's different for everyone for every game. Like, yes, Destiny really had that appeal to us, but it didn't for others. It was just such that weird mix of first-person shooter and MMO-ish. Just
very light.
Give it to me. All right. Humor me here. MMO-ish that, like, if you want to keep playing Destiny, you're going to have to buy the DLC. And we had a friend that just stopped it. He's like, no, it's pay to win, it's pay to play, whatever. And we're like, you're right.
All right.
Like, you're not wrong. Like, you're right. You pay to keep playing the game. And things like Persona, like, I follow different podcasts that just, like, sing the praises of Persona 4 all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to try it. And after 2 different attempts at a playthrough, I was just like, man, it just hasn't got me yet.
Yep.
Like, it just doesn't have me. And so, like, for me, it's like, all right, that's $20 gone. Like, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you have to know what you're getting into before you jump into it.
Yeah.
And that's not what it used to be. But now you have so many opportunities to learn. It's like you don't just go buy Bloodborne on a whim and just say, everyone says it's good, I'm going to check it out. Like, no, like, you need to understand what you're buying or what you're playing before you jump in. Just like with Dragon Age Inquisition, we did the same thing. We're like,
we bought it.
This game's highly reviewed. We saw it on eBay for like $15 or $20. Let's check it out. What do we have to lose? It sucked for
$15
us
or $20
personally. Like, it wasn't good. Like, I don't like party systems. I don't like having the opportunity to play as other characters and having to level those characters and having to equip those characters. I don't like any of that. I don't even like giving orders to other people in my team, aka like Ghost Recon type stuff. Like, I am me. I want to play as me. If I want someone else to play with me, I will ask them. I don't want help. That's not where I'm at. So that's one of those things, like, I didn't prepare myself for what that game was. Everyone just said, oh, it's one of the greatest RPGs of our generation. It's a 100-hour, like, amazing game. You're going to love it. Jump in. And no.
I think we were expecting The Witcher, and we got Dragon Age.
That's
just
true.
like, ugh.
But I also don't think I would like The Witcher.
See, I think I would love The Witcher.
I just know how long of a commitment The Witcher is.
Which is why I haven't bought The Witcher.
I don't know if it's something I could ever do. So maybe they'll remaster it for PS5 or something, and I'll pick it up.
Yeah,
then.
maybe then.
So.
But at the end of the day, in this world of the internet and well-collected information, podcasts like ours and others out there in video reviews, if you hear that a game is good after X hours, go look at some stuff on it. Go listen to people whose opinion you line up with. And if they like it, cool. Maybe you'll like it. If they hate it, maybe take that as a hint.
You don't always need to get it just because it's highly reviewed. So highly rated.
Highly reviewed for someone may not be highly reviewed for you. And with that, remember to save your game because the next boss could always be harder. We'll see you next time, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.